The border between Israel and Lebanon has, for decades, been a line marked not only on maps, but also by fortifications, watchtowers and patrol routes. It is here, in this corridor of tension and history, that new images have emerged of Israeli troops carrying out military exercises. The footage shows units moving in coordination, armoured vehicles manoeuvring across dirt terrain, and soldiers deploying in formations that appear prepared for rapid engagement. The Israeli army describes these activities as training exercises near the frontier, meant to ensure readiness and reinforce defensive positions. The movements are precise. Soldiers move in small clusters, rifles at the ready, some advancing while others provide cover. Vehicles shift slowly along narrow paths, sending dust into the air as they turn sharply across uneven ground. These scenes are presented as routine drills, but they take place against a background where even routine actions are closely watched, interpreted and responded to on the other side. Lebanese authorities reported that Israeli strikes have killed 4 people in eastern and southern Lebanon on Thursday. According to statements from officials in Lebanon, the casualties included individuals in areas that have seen repeated strikes in recent weeks. Israel has stated that the targets were linked to Hezbollah and included, according to Israeli military claims, a facility involved in precision missile production. Hezbollah has been one of the central actors along this border since the late 20th century, maintaining positions, observation points and weapons storage sites across southern Lebanon. To Israel, the group represents a direct security threat, especially with the expansion of its missile capabilities. To supporters of Hezbollah, it is seen as a resistance movement against Israeli presence and influence. These differing interpretations shape the way every military maneuver in the area is understood and communicated. In the footage of the exercises, the troops appear focused and disciplined. At one point, soldiers take up positions behind fortified berms, while others observe the terrain ahead. Some carry portable communication equipment, signalling coordination with units not visible in the frame. The drills appear to simulate battlefield movement, advancing, securing and repositioning. Dust clouds rise with each shift of vehicle weight, and the midday sun casts long shadows across the ground, emphasizing the shapes of helmets, gear packs and sand-colored uniforms. This stretch of border has long been sensitive. For more than a year, exchanges of fire, airstrikes and shelling have occurred with varying intensity. Communities on both sides have been affected. In some towns, families have moved away, choosing temporary relocation over the uncertainty of living near a line where escalation can happen quickly. Even in quieter periods, the presence of armed observation and constant surveillance has shaped daily life. The Israeli military's description of the drill highlights preparedness. The emphasis is on readiness for what officials describe as possible threats from across the border. For its part, Hezbollah has previously said that it maintains forces and operational posts to deter Israeli incursions. The strategic balance here is fragile. Any action can be seen as a message. Any movement can be interpreted as preparation. The terrain contributes to this volatility. Hills offer vantage points, but they also conceal movement. Valleys and orchards create pathways that cannot easily be monitored in full. In past conflicts, fighters have used this geography to launch attacks, withdraw and reposition quickly. Given that history, military planners on both sides understand that even small adjustments to deployment patterns can change calculations of advantage. The report of 4 people killed in Lebanon has drawn attention across the region. Lebanese media outlets reported that the strikes hit locations associated with Hezbollah's logistics and support networks. Israeli officials, however, describe such sites as part of an expanded infrastructure enabling the development and improvement of missile systems capable of striking deep into Israeli territory. Precision guidance technology is one of the most sensitive elements of this confrontation. To Israel, stopping the spread of such capability is a strategic priority. To Hezbollah and its allies, developing it is framed as essential to deterrence. As the camera follows soldiers in the exercise footage, one can see coordinated gestures. A commander signals with an extended arm. A vehicle halts. Troops lower themselves to the ground. They wait, reposition, then rise again. The moment is deliberate. It reflects a kind of practiced rhythm familiar to militaries across the world. The repetition and rehearsal of movements meant to be carried out under pressure. But here, every repetition has added weight because the scenarios being trained for are not abstract. They mirror situations that have occurred in past confrontations and may occur again. The border has seen brief periods of quiet broken by sudden escalations that unfold over hours or days. Artillery fire, airstrikes, anti-tank missiles, cross-border ground attempts. The region keeps a collective memory of such episodes. Local residents living near the northern Israeli border, as well as residents of southern Lebanon, have spoken in the past about the stress associated with unpredictability. A morning may begin in calm and end with evacuation orders. Agricultural fields become inaccessible. Businesses close temporarily. Roads are monitored. Schools adjust schedules or relocate classes. For many, the uncertainty has shaped not only routines, but also how communities imagine their future. In political discussions, the border is often described as one of the most significant fault lines in the region. It connects broader geopolitical alignments involving Iran, Syria, and regional dynamics. The exchange of strikes is rarely isolated from developments happening elsewhere. Diplomatic efforts often attempt to prevent escalation here, while also managing other conflicts and negotiations occurring simultaneously. The footage shows soldiers carrying out rapid movements between defensive covers. They appear to be practicing responses to sudden engagement, a scenario in which conflict erupts without warning. Armoured vehicles shift along ridges, pausing near reinforced positions. There is no audible dialogue in the images, only movement and coordination, leaving interpretation to context and statements surrounding the release. Lebanese officials say Thursday's strikes add to a series of attacks that have affected residential areas and rural communities. Humanitarian groups have expressed concerns about displacement and limited access to essential services in some affected districts. The situation is monitored closely by international organizations that track changes in civilian movement and infrastructure damage. On the Israeli side, officials frame the military actions as necessary defensive measures. They argue that preventing the strengthening of Hezbollah's missile capabilities reduces the likelihood of a larger conflict. The challenge is that actions taken to prevent one conflict can also contribute to the possibility of another if interpreted as preparations for aggression. Meanwhile, regional diplomacy continues through indirect channels. Messages are conveyed via intermediaries. Governments express warnings, reassurances, and conditions. At times, agreements to reduce tension have held temporarily. At other times, they have broken down quickly in response to new incidents. Along the border, observation towers stand overlooking valleys and roads. Patrol routes are visible as narrow pathways worn into the terrain. In some areas, concrete barriers and metal fencing run in long lines across the landscape. The geography is not only physical but psychological, a space shaped by the memory of past conflict and the anticipation of future confrontation. The exercises seen in the footage serve as a reminder of this reality. They reflect a military preparing itself for scenarios that are not hypothetical. The timing of the exercises, alongside reports of recent strikes, has led analysts to discuss whether the region is in a period of heightened alert. Military officials have not publicly confirmed changes in readiness levels, but messaging conveyed through actions can be as significant as formal statements. The border remains a place where caution is constant and where silence does not guarantee calm. Even when no immediate escalation is visible, the structures, deployments, and maneuvers continue. It is a landscape shaped by strategic calculation and lived experience, where each side watches the other closely. The exercises, the strikes, the responses, all form part of an ongoing dynamic that extends beyond any single day's events. In this environment, the question of stability is not merely about preventing conflict, but about managing a situation where conflict is always a possibility. How long the current phase will continue remains uncertain. What can be seen, however, is that both sides remain in motion, adjusting positions, reinforcing capabilities, and preparing for outcomes that neither side publicly claims to seek, but both sides appear ready to confront if drawn into escalation. The border, once again, stands as a point of watchfulness, tension, and unresolved history.